Hello, I'm your host Jim McLean. Welcome to another episode of the BanterFlix movie review show here on NVTV. Let's see what movies we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be reviewing Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, which is out in cinemas. Our pick of the streams is See How They Run, which is available to watch on Disney+. And we'll wrap up this week's show as we pay tribute to Kevin Conroy by looking back at Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So that's what we've lined up for you in this week's show, and joining me this evening in the NVTV studio is local blogger James Oliver. Hello to you, James.
How are you, Jim?
James, we have a packed show this week, and I know on your kind of insistence we were going to pay tribute to Kevin Conroy. We will talk about that a little bit in our movie news, and I know we'll also be talking about Mask of the Phantasm, which we mentioned in the opening credits. So without any further ado, let's have a look at some movie news. For you, anything caught your attention this week?
Yeah, well, we finally got an official trailer for The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser. This will be his big, people are calling it the Renaissance. I was fortunate enough to see this at London Film Festival with my girlfriend, and it's absolutely amazing. So I've no doubt it'll be a big contender at next year's awards. But I can't wait for everyone to get the chance to see this on a big screen. It is as good as what they're saying. Believe the hype, sort of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited that people now get a look at it for those who couldn't make it. This film's sold out. It's screening at the QFT for London Film Festival. When there was no trailer, no poster, it's just the still image of him that's been circulating the internet. So if I think that tells you all you need to know, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things I've heard about the film. I'm a massive fan of Brendan Fraser, not just from the Mummy days. You know, he is a great actor. It's great to see him back on the screen. Many years ago, he was here in Belfast for the film festival, and it's great to see him back at the top of his game. Now, I know we wanted to talk about Kevin Conroy. Very sad news broke last week after we had finished the recording of last week's show that the actor known for many people as the voice of Batman in the animated series had passed away. Every so often, those type of deaths of actors and people that we know, it hits you in the gut. It definitely hit me in the gut. I grew up with that series and Kevin Conroy as the voice of Batman. You texted me when you said you were on the show. You wanted to make sure we were talking about it. I know we're going to be talking about the Mask of the Phantasm shortly, but for you, what did Kevin Conroy mean to you?
He was an incredible voice actor. Like you said yourself, watching the animated series growing up, it's something that I watched growing up as well as a child, and it's phenomenal. Like, to a whole generation of kids who are now, like me, in their 30s or approaching their 30s, that he is the definitive voice of Batman. And it was amazing whenever they released the Arkham series of games for the PlayStation and whatnot, and him and Mark Hamill came back to reprise their roles as Batman and the Joker respectively, and I can't put into words how sad I was, and I don't think I'll ever be able to convey in words just how great he was. Like I went back, and obviously one of tonight's films we'll be talking about is The Mask of the Phantasm, but even just throughout the past couple of weeks, I've been rewatching the animated series, and just what he brought to that character, just by simply his voice, it was just amazing. And he, you have your Adam West, your Christian Bales, but to me, he is and forever will be the Batman, the Caped Crusader, the Dark Knight. So yeah. Yeah,
I can't disagree with you at all, James. I mean, he kept that franchise alive. Yeah, I know we had the Val Kilmer and the George Clooney Batman movies for a while, and let's not talk about them. Although Batman Forever has its charm as, I suppose, Batman and Robin, but he was Batman for so many people and is responsible for getting so many people involved in that franchise, and he will be sorely missed. He just, when I think of Batman, genuinely and honestly, I think of Christian Bale and I think of Kevin Conroy, and that just says everything about him as a performer. Now, the other thing, you were very worried about this because I said very briefly with our movie news, I was going to put you on the spot, and this week is the 80th birthday of Martin Scorsese, and I just thought very quickly I'd ask you, what is your favourite Scorsese film and why?
Oh dear, you really put me on the spot with this. Okay, I'm going to go with one of his more recent ones. No disrespect to any of his back catalogues. There are some phenomenal films in there. The likes of Taxi Driver, I love. I'm going to have to go with The Irishman. I saw this in cinemas before it went to Netflix in an exclusive premiere. because I know it got a very limited theatrical run. And yes, it's 3.5 hours long, and I get that, but they brought back, he was able to bring back, Pacino, De Niro, Joe Pesci, that's like the holy trinity. And I just really loved that story that it told. I know it was based on the book as well. But yeah, I would say for me, that's one of my definite favourites would be The Irishman.
Okay, I love The Irishman. I'm a big fan of it. I'm not so fussed on the facelift, the kind of CGI technology to de-age some of the cast members, because it might do wonders for their face, but physically it doesn't do anything for their actual performance. I can't look beyond Goodfellas. And the reason why I say it is because, when Ray Liotta passed away, sadly, I went back and rewatched that film. I just forgot just how full of energy it is, and just I can't swear because we're pre-Watershed, but just what an amazing piece of cinema it is, and it's a crime that film got overlooked at the Academy Awards. But anyway, we will move on, and we'll move on from Scorsese, and let's get stuck into this week's big release.
We know what you whisper. They have lost their protector. Show them who we are.
So that's a look at Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It was released in cinemas last week. James, you and I have both seen this. Well, we're the only two people in the room, so we have to for it to be a movie review show. This is the latest installment within Marvel's MCU and the concluding chapter of their Phase 4. Takes place, of course, underneath the shadow of the passing of Chadwick Boseman, and the filmmaker Ryan Coogler has decided to bring that into the series. So T'Challa has sadly passed away. And I don't know if I want to say too much more about the plot, but if you want to, feel free to throw anything else in, James. But what did you think of the film?
I loved it. It's definitely the strongest entry in Phase 4. Phase 4 has been, let's be honest, a little bit of a mess. Black Widow, we were promised an entirely different story, and then we got an entirely different film altogether. I liked Shang-Chi. I liked that. The TV series has been good. Miss Marvel, I thought was great. She-Hulk, can take it or leave it. But yeah, overall Phase 4 has probably been the weakest. But yeah, it was always going to be an incredibly difficult task. And I said this in my written review of it, that, to build a film off the back of the passing of Chadwick Boseman, which was, I know it wasn't entirely unexpected, but still quite, we lost him far too soon. Like many great actors, unfortunately, it's just a very sad thing that happens. So whichever director decided to take this on, it was always going to be a monumental thing to try and achieve a story that respected Chadwick Boseman, but as well as continued on, the MCU. And Ryan Coogler did an amazing job with it. I loved it. I loved the story it told. And I don't really want to say too much about it. It's only just been out this past weekend, but Namor, the actor who plays him, is great, and he's not just a throwaway villain in this. They give him a lot of depth as to why he's doing the things he's doing. They do call him Namor though, which I don't know if that's due to maybe some sort of rights or whatever, but yeah. I thought it was great, and like I say, it's just a really beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, I think it's probably my favourite installment within the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 4, probably my favourite Marvel movie for quite some time, probably since Black Panther. Ryan Coogler, I look back at his back catalogue, I don't think he's done a bad film yet. The scale and the ambition within this film, it's not just reflecting on the death of Chadwick Boseman and reflecting on the death of T'Challa, of course, within the MCU, but also looking at its impact on those people around Wakanda, particularly the family members. Letitia Wright is great in that role. She's really been given much more to do this time around. The standout performer for me anyway is Angela Bassett, who just steals the show. And I'm the person who goes on record about how I suffer from comic book fatigue. I think give that woman a nomination for performance, an Oscar nomination for performance in this film. She is stupendous. If I'm critical, I think at 2 hours, 45 minutes. I think it is a little bit baggy. I think it is a little bit slow paced, but that's not a criticism that I really want to hit at the film. But I think if you were being more ruthless, you could go back and cut a little bit down. But I will say this, I mean, from the opening credits, I mean, there's a wonderful tribute to Chadwick Boseman in the kind of standard Marvel fanfare. I thought it was really touching. But the closing moments of this film, I'm not ashamed to say I blubbed. And I always talk about this, we bring our own kind of emotional baggage into these situations. You know, my father passed away last year, and without going into spoilers, giving too much about the plot away, the closing moments and just kind of very quiet scene, it brought back memories for me. And as I say, that's what we bring, our emotional baggage. And I thought it really powerful. And my lovely wife had to console me greatly during the closing credits when I had to say, look, I'm not okay. And believe me, viewers, you cannot cry and talk at the same time. It just can't be done. Can't be done gracefully. But I think it's really powerful. And like you've alluded to, I think what Ryan Coogler has done with this film is once again, like with Black Panther, the first film, where we had Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger, he gives us a complex villain that's maybe doesn't see himself as a villain, and therefore is probably once again one of the strongest villains within Marvel's cinematic universe, compared to even the genocidal Bono that is Thanos. I don't know, I mean, is that something for you that works? I think of the films in this MCU so far, both Black Panther films have both had the most complex villains.
I would agree with you on that. Like I say, I wasn't entirely sure from the trailer where they were going to go. I wasn't sure why Namor was showing up, you know, what kind of, how they would tie into that. And to me, I was a bit scared at the start when I was like, you know, I looked at it and I thought, oh no, I was like, are they just bringing him in for, you know, just for the sake there's no one else, or, you know, how are they doing this? But the way they introduced him, which is a great scene, by the way, it's almost very kind of horror-esque almost, watching it. But the way they introduced him right the way through his entire arc, down to the final kind of fight scene that they have, which, just on a side note, I loved the fight scenes in this film. There's a lot of films that can do, you know, fight scenes perfectly, and, you know, that's no secret at all. But this film in particular used its fight scenes in its more quieter moments. You know, there's no background noise or music. It's just one-on-one, you know, it's going down, it's happening, which I loved. I do love whenever a film does that. But yeah, certainly the Black Panther films have had, like you say, more complex villains, which is what the MCU, I think, has struggled to bring to the plate now that Thanos is no more. I know we're building towards Kang the Conqueror, and Jonathan Majors, I think, is the actor's name, and we will see him in Ant-Man Quantumania, or sorry, we will see a version of him in Ant-Man Quantumania next year. But yeah, whilst we're waiting for that, Black Panther has certainly done, it's like the best job of introducing this brand new character, this brand new villain, who, again, without saying too much, without spoiling it, you know, we may see again. So, and I'm very much looking forward to when that time comes. And again, without spoiling it, there is a certain thing revealed about him, which again kind of alludes to further projects down the line. So yeah, really overall, I'm very excited now for what's to come. It makes me excited again to be a Marvel fan.
I don't think this film has necessarily done enough to win me back over. I think, like you've alluded to earlier on, James, phase 4, I think it's phase 4, has been very erratic in its output, and it seems like we're before Marvel had a clear idea of where they were going and what they were leading to. It now seems that they're leading breadcrumbs for a lot of projects, which may pay dividends in the future. We can't tell right now, but it has felt muddled. It hasn't felt as clearly focused and clearly outlined as what we've seen before. But as you say, I really enjoyed it. I think the fact that what I enjoyed the most about it was the fact that it told its own story. I've talked about it leaving breadcrumbs. This was a film that told Wakanda's story, and I think with everything that has happened with Chadwick Boseman, that had to be done, and the focus had to be there. So yeah, so I think it's a thumbs up from both of us for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It'll make our movie of the week a very interesting conversation at the end of the show. But for now, let's move from the big screen to the digital screen.
Victim's name is Leo Kopernik, sir.
Seems he was killed in the costume store.
And then he was deposited here. Staged, so to speak. Sorry, sir.
We are no longer merely suspects. We are also potential victims.
So that's a look at See How They Run, which is available now on Disney Plus, and it was in cinemas earlier this year. I think you got to see it in cinemas,
Yeah,
James.
I did.
So it'll be interesting to see what you think of the film. This is Tom George's directorial debut. He's done a lot of TV up until now. We have a star-studded cast. A lot of actors I really like are in this project, and that has maybe skewed my enjoyment of the feature. But what did you think of this whodunit?
I really enjoyed it. To me, it looked like a Wes Anderson film, was shot like a Wes Anderson film, played out like a Wes Anderson film, but it isn't a Wes Anderson film. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. What a leading pairing in Sam Rockwell and Saoirse Ronan. I thought they were fantastic together. I just thought it was a good throwback to, like you say, the good olden days of whodunit. And yes, I know we've had Knives Out and we're going to have the sequel in a few weeks' time, which is kind of maybe what more people are focusing on and looking forward to, because its cast is also quite stellar. But yeah, I just found this just a really enjoyable film. You can kind of go in, switch off. It's not too convoluted with its plot twists or anything like that. It's just really enjoyable and just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. I think my enjoyment is based on the performers, as opposed to the actual narrative, as opposed to the actual plot. I think it is the film is referencing heavily a lot of classic whodunits. It does it with a knowing nudge and a wink. I mean, there's a lot of references to Agatha Christie projects. We've 10 Rillington Place, and that's referenced a true life serial killer story that inspired one of my favourite films with Sir Richard Attenborough. But if I'm brutally honest, the film itself is a bit meh. But you've alluded to this. Sam Rockwell, I will read the phone book. The same with Saoirse Ronan. I think she's just an amazing performer. And she's great. I haven't really seen her do comedy before. I mean, we've seen her do kind of the indie stuff. I've seen her in other projects. I mean, I love her in Lady Bird. But here she shows she has a real knack for the physicality of comedy. I don't want to mention the C word just yet, because I know in December we're going to have a lot of shows dedicated to Christmas. For me, this is the type of film I would probably sit down at Christmas on Boxing Day. You're too full of turkey. The tin of Quality Street has been opened. You can't find the remote. You will not be disappointed to sit through this. The key thing, viewers, it's an hour and a half. It's not 2 hours, 40 minutes. It's not 2 hours. It's an hour and a half. You can sit down and watch it in one sitting, relatively easy. But you saw this in the cinema. I found myself watching it last night for the TV show. I didn't feel like I needed to see it in the cinema. And I know that Leo McGuigan and I, local filmmaker, have got into a few heated discussions over that point in the past on previous episodes of the show. But you seen it in the cinema. I mean, was there many at the screening? How did you find that as a cinematic experience?
It was quite empty, I'll be honest. I feel there's been, how to put this, in recent months, I feel there's been a lot of titles that are kind of more edging towards indie titles that are getting, kind of big screen releases, which is great, don't get me wrong. I do love my indie films, and it's nice whenever mainstream cinemas, where big chain cinemas pick it up and they screen it, even if it is only for a week or so. It's great to see, because it gives more people the opportunity to watch it, or maybe to see a trailer of it and whatnot, and that's great. But yeah, our screening was pretty quiet, and I probably could have watched this either way. If I hadn't seen it in the cinemas, it went to Disney Plus not long after. I think it was only a couple of weeks after. So I could have watched this either way, and I think I still would have got the same enjoyment out of it. You know me well enough. If it's a film that I can catch on the big screen, I will happily go out of my way to see it on the big screen. But again, I've no issues with streaming either. There was a couple the past few weeks there that I've had to sit down and watch through streaming, just simply because I never got around to it, or I've just picked up on Blu-ray because they're not available to stream yet. So yeah, but I'm very happy that I got to see it on the big screen, so I can do it either way.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I enjoyed it on the streaming service. I think it'll maybe find its home more to an audience there. I know a lot of filmmakers, some well-respected filmmakers, I think even Steven Spielberg, have been quite critical of the changing nature of distribution and how quickly films are ending up on streaming services compared to the big screen. I will always encourage, cinematic, go pay your ticket, go see something on the biggest screen with the best sound system. But if this helps a film find its audience, you've mentioned at the very start, the shadow over this film is not only Knives Out, but its sequel. I remember looking at the marketing campaign, it was very much molded in a similar manner to Knives Out. So it was playing to that audience, it knew what it was doing. It clearly didn't reach them at the cinema. I don't think it did fantastically well at the box office. Maybe that audience will find it now on Disney Plus. We're going to have, as you've mentioned, the Knives Out sequel out in the next couple of weeks. I know it's going to be hitting cinemas before it actually arrives on Netflix. So who knows? As I say, I think this is a film perfect for a lazy Sunday or in around that Christmas period, the twilight zone between Christmas and the New Year, when nothing happens in the world. You could do a lot worse than sitting for an hour and a half and watching this film. And with that, let's move on to our last film of the week.
Now, the Dark Knight confronts his newest and most menacing villain.
Your angel of death awaits.
The Phantasm.
I want you.
And faces his greatest danger.
Can't be too careful with all those weirdos around.
A soaring new adventure. Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. The animated movie.
So that's a look at Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, which we're talking about this week. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, the sad news of the passing of Kevin Conroy. You hadn't seen this, James, before we asked you to review it. Released in '93, up until the release of the Lego Batman movie, was the only animated Batman movie to ever be released cinematically. It was a bit of a box office bomb when it got out on cinemas, but it has developed a cult status. It has got a cult following. Many, like me, I'm preempting, sorry viewers, many like me do say this is one of the best Batman movies ever released in the cinema. So you've only seen this for the first time. What did you think?
I loved it. I'm quite embarrassed to say I only saw it for the first time last night because Sub-Zero, which my hoodie, was the only one I'd seen up until that point. But again, Sub-Zero did not get released cinematically, so that was the only one I'd seen. I'd heard of Mask of the Phantasm. I always knew it existed. I just had never got around to watching it until last night, and I didn't know it was released theatrically. Didn't know. That's pretty cool. To me, this film captures the entire overall dark and the more gothic tones of the animated series. It's literal animated perfection, from the opening title sequence, which has that amazing score that plays over it, which just gives you goosebumps. I hear that score and you're just reminded of that animated series. It's great, and the story itself is actually quite, for being, I know the entire series was quite grounded and adult for being practically a kid's show back in the day, but the film tells a quite grounded Bruce Wayne story. And I like how it goes over, his younger days of training. And I'm sure we'll talk about this more as we talk about the film in general, but you get some beautiful shots in this, the shot where he puts on the cowl for the first time and he's holding it in his hands is just spectacular. I know I only saw it on the TV screen, but it's, that literally gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, I love this film. I'm proud to say one of the early screenings that we ever did was Mask of the Phantasm many years ago for Free Comic Book Day, and seeing it on a big screen for the second time, because I seen this when it was released in cinemas in '93. I was 11, absolutely loved it. Prime Batman animated series fanboy at that time, and then I probably didn't appreciate things that I appreciate about it now. The fact that we see the Caped Crusader as a detective, we see him as Bruce Wayne, we see that he's someone who falls in love. There's a beautiful sequence in this where he goes to his parents' grave asking to be released from his vow because he didn't realise he would be happy. It also gives us another great character in the Phantasm that the animated series has given us that is now in the comic books. You know, last year the character was brought into the comic book verse. And like Harley Quinn, there's a creation that originated from the series. You can see its influence within Batman lore. I think it's stupendous. And it's an hour and 16 minutes. You know, I was talking the virtues moments ago of see how they run at an hour and a half. Viewers, this is an hour and 16 minutes. Zack Snyder struggled to tell a film in nearly 3 hours about the Batman verse. And I know you're a fan of Zack Snyder, but you know, the guy needs to watch Mask of the Phantasm and see what you can do within an hour and 16 minutes compared to what he tried to do with all his various incarnations of the Justice League. I love it. I genuinely love it. I think it's worthy of its cult status, but yet I think more people, you've mentioned this is the first time you've seen it, I think more people need to watch it and give it a bit of love. But anything else you want to add about the Phantasm before we go?
No, I would just, if I could organise a screening myself, you know, I would happily put this on for everyone. You've said everything about it, which is absolutely true, and having now watched it for the first time, I could see myself, you know, going back and watching it again, or maybe there's friends that haven't seen it, I would encourage them to watch it. I get it at the time that, you know, the animated series, yes, it has, it's grown to appeal to a more wider audience in the years that have followed since its release. It was, I think it ran from 92 to 95. So like I said back at the very start when we were talking about it, you know, for kids at that age who are now my age, maybe some of them have, you know, they're grown up and they maybe don't like Batman anymore, but I would happily still go back and rewatch this time and time again. You've said it, it's stupendous. It's a work of art. It's perfection. And I still hold a soft spot for Sub-Zero. I thought it told a really good story. But yeah, I would definitely say that Mask of the Phantasm is the better animated feature film. So yeah, and if you haven't give Batman the animated series a watch, the Blu-rays box set's still available. I would say get on it. And yeah, I'm just really glad that we've been able to talk about it to honour the passing of Kevin Conroy. So it's made me very happy.
Yeah, the Blu-ray box set is a thing of beauty. They've all been remastered, so if you've never seen the animated series, go back and seek it out, or if you haven't watched it in a long time, like myself, go back and realise just that it does stand the test of time. That gothic style that just captures, you know, the spirit of kind of what Frank Miller was trying to do. And Mask of the Phantasm definitely kind of holds, you know, it holds a lot to Frank Miller's year one. You know, we definitely see that. But anyway, look, we are out of time. We can talk all night, I think, about Batman, the Mask of the Phantasm, and we could probably get into discussion about Zack Snyder, but we won't. We're going to move on and wrap up this week's show as we pick our film of the week. Right, James, this is going to be interesting. I don't know what way you're going to go. I think I've maybe kind of sold myself on what way I'm going to go with my film of the week. But for our viewers this week, of the 3 films we have discussed tonight, what would you recommend out of those 3 that they should seek out above all else?
I'm going to have to go with Mask of the Phantasm. Not just for the sake of, you know, that we've been talking about the passing of Kevin Conroy, but with the likes of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, yes, again, that is also a beautiful tribute film to Chadwick Boseman. Eventually, though, it will end up on streaming services like Disney Plus or other VOD platforms. Mask of the Phantasm, though, yeah, you can come by it on VOD platforms as well, but I believe that viewers should seek this out, give it a watch, you know, if they haven't before. Maybe this is their introduction to Batman. Maybe they can make it their kids' introduction to Batman. And I just feel that would hold a special place in their hearts, as it holds a special place in our hearts. So I think I'm going to have to go with that.
Well, I'm afraid it's going to be 2 for 2 this week. We rarely try to talk about 2 comic book movies on the show now, because I just think there's so many comic book movies out there, and there's just such amazing films to be watched out there at the minute. And this is exceptional circumstances. Seek out Mask of the Phantasm. And look, Zach, if you're watching, you might not be, but try and find it, watch and see what you can do with a really good Batman story in under an hour and a half. So yes, mine is Mask of the Phantasm. So it's 2 for 2. That's all I'm left to do now is thank you, James, for giving up your time this evening to chat about movies.
Thank you very much, Jim.
And thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with another show. But for now, until then, goodbye.